Welcome back to the Property Gurus. Today we're going to show you the loft staircase installation from start to finish. This project is HIP to Gable Loft Conversion, so you can see here that one half of the roof was previously sloped and we're going to be squaring that off to enable the staircase to be installed. So going back to the original property, all the floors are oak in the property, and it was originally a 3-bedroom, and the only access to the loft was through the old loft ladder through the hatch. And the loft itself was in reasonable condition but had sloping roofs on 3 sides, making it impossible to stand up anywhere apart from in the very central section. So the HIP to Gable side of this conversion was removing the pitched roof on the very far end of the house and squaring that upwards to give sufficient headroom to put both the staircase in and additional room space. So if we do a quick scan around the original loft here, you can see as we look over towards the far side there, it's very, very restricted head height and you're not able to stand up at all. So this whole structure had to be removed. So jumping forward, we can see the structure here is starting to be demolished. This was the original pitched roof. You can see where the guys are standing, the level of the pitch that was previously in place. So all of these joists are being removed. An entirely new structure had to be fitted in place. And where the 2 guys are standing is actually where the staircase that we are looking at today will be installed. That's where it will come up into the loft space once it's constructed. So all of this timber obviously has to go because you can see there's no head height for anybody to stand up. So we jump forward to after the steels have been inserted. You can see the steels here, and where the stairs are coming up there's the large rectangular space at the end here. So we've put joists in between the steels, so you can see all the joists. This is where the floor will be for the loft, and then the big section that we're looking at here is where the staircase is going to come up into the room itself. So you can see we've started putting the pitched roof on the front, and we've got the ridge beam, the steel ridge beam across the top here, which is giving significantly more headroom when people are coming up the stairs. Cutting forward again, this is after the dormer structure had been constructed. So we put a window in, you can see the window there, that's going to be above the top of the stairs to let lots of light in, natural light as you come up to the top of the staircase. And as we move over, you can see the gap that's been left in the joists, where we will be cutting this out shortly. So that will be removed, all of this section. Underneath that is the ceiling for the middle floor. So that will be cut out as we build the staircase, and then the tailor-made stairs will be installed into this gap to bring it all the way up to the top of this room. The floor previously was just joisted, and this was the ceiling from the area below. So the guys have basically cut out this hole in the floor today, removed the ceiling from below, and the staircase was made to measure by staircase manufacturer and was brought to site and has been assembled on site today. I'll just walk down, we can see where it was cut out. Let's just have a walk down this staircase. So it's been assembled in pieces, and you can see the balustrading's been put on, and under here it's come in different pieces which have been fitted today. So this is where they've constructed the hole in the ceiling. It's a nice neat job, nice and square, and the actual staircase itself has been fitted. It's been screwed to the original external wall. And the turn is here. And this was previously landing balustrade. It's been cut out, and they've joined two balustrades
here. And this piece here has been put in until all of the glue and the adhesive goes off overnight. That'll be removed tomorrow. The balustrading has been put in, so we go downstairs, we can see how it flows. This is the original staircase. Just walking up where the floor protection was put in place before the work started. This is the landing, and then we come up to the new balustrade and stairs. So we've got, in this case, we've got 3 straight steps, then the winders. We come round up the winders, up to the top, and then into the loft space. Now this will be landing, the minimum landing I think is 850, so we're going to have that, which will come here, and then we're up into the main room itself. So just to look back at those stairs from above, this is the hole that's been cut into the ceiling below, and these stairs have been fixed in and brought round. There's just the balustrading's all in place, and then this section here will be the landing, and then where the floor joist is will be the door into the room.
All the floors in this house are oak, and this staircase that was installed as part of a loft conversion is a standard softwood finish. It's relatively cheap, and you can see here that all of these stairs have a protruding nose, so they have a little overhang, and usually if you're putting carpet on these stairs you would you'd put staples underneath the front edge of that bull nose overhang to fix the carpet to the underside. This is the loft when it was first created. If we just have a quick look back down the staircase, you can see that it's pretty unimpressive, not very dazzling, but we're going to convert this into something amazing through adding some oak cladding. So these are the materials that we're going to use. It's a standard tongue and groove system. So we've got normal planks of oak, and we have bought some pre-made nosings. So this is a bull nose finish, so you can see it's got the rounded edge at the front. So it will give us a really lovely professional finish, and that's going to sit on the front edge of all the steps. And then on the back of the nosing, we've got a groove that's been pre-made, and that fits perfectly into this plank system. So it's the same gauge, same thickness as the planks themselves, so it will provide us with a nice smooth finish on the step. And in a classic fashion, we've got the tongue system from the plank, and the front edge of the nose will fit neatly on top of that and provide us with a nice clean surface. So
this is the equipment that we need. We've got
set
14
of materials
steps.
that we need. We've got
so we bought
14 steps.
bull nose
We've actually purchased 15 of these nosings just in case
nosings.
we make an error.
An extra one just in case to run out of wood.
The planks themselves,
just when you're
these
in
are
the last stages of the job and have to then go back.
Oak wood
just a waste of time and
so
waste
they've
of
got a
money
very
and effort
thin
for everybody. So this wood is the same as the nosings. It's oak, but it's unfinished, so it doesn't have any sort of oil or anything on it, and we will oil all of it afterwards so that it has a consistent look and matches up. We did consider using brushed and oils for the flooring, but then
once we finish making it, we'll put the same oil on the stairs as we're putting
a few
on the
issues, so we
floors
thought it was
themselves,
better to
and
have
everything will
both
have a nice
with the same
consistent
finish
colour
and then
will be
to add the
tied
finish
in.
later.
Also able to remove any damage. So the first job that we have on the stairs is to remove the nosing from the original softwood staircase that was installed. So this is a multi-tool, the sharp cutting edge, slightly laborious job. You literally have to go around and just shave the front nose off every single step, but what you need is a nice square edge. Because we're fitting wood on top of this, we need it to be as close to 90 degrees as possible. Now you can see here that it's not perfect, but when we're putting the cladding over this finish, you won't notice any of this, and it will form a perfect finish eventually. But we've had to take all these nosings off It doesn't matter if you've got slightly jagged edge and it's not perfectly straight, as you can see here, because it's going to be covered over with the floorboards and the nosings anyway. So here's the staircase with all of the nosings removed. So this is now ready for us to start looking at cladding these stairs. You can see we've cleaned them down a little bit. But the first thing to do that we want to do is make sure we painted all the inside of the stairs themselves, because that's a much more difficult job to do later. So if we jump forward a bit, you can see that we've now painted everything on the inside, so we're ready to start cutting the nosings and the boards to size. So we're showing you here a winder because these are more tricky. There's two angles on this winder, and what we're doing, we're taking a piece on either end of that to get the correct angle to cut the far end of the nosing. So we know the length that we have to put the nosing on the winder, and the winder is just a fancy name for the triangular steps as you go into a turn. And so we know the exact length. So what we've done here is cut out the corners to make sure that the angle fits perfectly when we take it back to the stairs. So using an offcut from a piece we'd already cut down slightly, we've tested that angle, so we've trimmed that a few times, made sure that the angle fits perfectly, and then it's literally a case of taking that to the full piece and then scoring it on as we've just done with the pencil. And once you've got that angle cut out, you can then take it to your chop saw, cut down, and then when you take it back to the actual stair and present it, this should fit perfectly now. So you can see that we've had to cut a couple of different angles on either end to make sure that this fits, and once you've done that, it just minimises the risk of damaging or cutting your nosing too short, because they're expensive, these pieces, and you want to make sure that any mistakes that you make are done on cutouts and small pieces rather than on the big piece. So on this one, we're just taking it, fitting it, seeing if it fits. This is slightly too big, and we would always recommend, if you're going to err on the side of caution, make sure you leave a little bit extra, because you can always trim it away, as we're doing here. We're just literally taking shaving off a very small amount off the end just to make sure that it fits perfectly. Always better to have these things slightly longer and then trim it down later than take it to the step and find that you've cut it too short and you've left a gap, because you will see that gap every day, and every time you go up those stairs you'll be seeing that gap, and you really don't want that. So you need to do this for every single step. Obviously the square ones are easier than the diagonal ones. Now, to fit the board itself behind that nosing, one of the easiest ways we've found to do this is to take a piece of your floor covering. So this is just a spare piece of plastic that we were using to protect the original floors. So you can use anything, but as long as it's easy to work with. Cut that down. So we've cut that so we've got the exact width of our board here, and then we're taking it to the winder, so the diagonal step, which is an awkward size and awkward shape, and it's got angles and it's pretty tricky. You can use fancy equipment, and there are lots of different gadgets for this, but we've found that using a piece of plastic like this, take it to the step, cut it to size, so you get the exact angle, and you also get the exact size of the piece of wood that you're looking to create. You can see here we're going to have to use two pieces of wood, because this first piece leaves a small triangular patch in the corner, so our boards aren't wide enough to be able to fill this gap with one piece. We need two pieces. So we cut that to size, then take it back to your board, and you've got the exact angle here. So start with the corner of the board, draw the angle in using your stencil, as we've got here, and then draw the other side. Now obviously this stencil isn't perfectly straight, but it's giving us the angle that we need. The critical thing here is getting the right angle, because if you don't get that angle correct, it's not going to fit, and you're going to waste wood. And we're trying to minimise the wood. It's expensive flooring. So take something with a straight edge. We're just using a saw here, which is on site and easy to use. You can use a metal ruler, but you know, if you're happy working with tools, a saw does the job perfectly well. And just make sure that you create that same angle with the saw using a nice straight edge. And what this is doing is basically taking that template that we presented to the stairs and making it now, we're just putting that impression onto the actual board itself, and then if we trim that down, so using the chop saw again, let's make sure that the line is perfectly straight and follows the angle that we cut out and we've just drawn onto the board. So we cut that on both sides. We're going to use a handsaw for the other angle because it's more than 60 degrees and slightly awkward to do on this chop saw. So just a bit easier on site to actually just use a handsaw. And if you've got a nice steady hand, then you should be able to follow the line of the stencil that you've just created. So chop both sides, and then once we've cut this through, we'll take it back to the stairs and we'll fit it into the nosing itself. So this is the nosing we cut a few minutes ago. So this fits in nicely through the tongue and groove system. And what we should have once we've done that is the first piece of this winder step, which fits nicely into place. So the angles are all correct. Now you can see a little gap against the stair above. That's not a problem because we're putting risers as well as treads on here. So the riser will sit on top of that. So you don't have to worry if you've got some slight gaps where the two stairs meet, because you're going to drop down a riser on top of that. So just to make the final piece of this stair, taking another piece of the protective flooring, cutting it to size, so we've got the size of the triangular piece we need as the final part of this step. So we'll take that back over to the chop saw. Same process again, use this stencil to create your angles, so it's the angles that you're really concerned with as well as the size of the piece. And then once you've got those angles, you can make sure that the lines you've got are 100% straight. So you can use your saw or metal ruler again, draw those lines in, and then you can cut out that piece, and that should fit perfectly into the gap that you've got left on the winder. So it's a slightly slow process doing these triangular steps, but it's really important if you want to minimise the wastage from your wood, which is fairly critical to keeping the cost down. Then it's really important to do the measurements and get the exact size first time rather than having a trial and error system, because you'll just burn through a whole load of wood and the job then starts to get really expensive and as you create a mess, which is not ideal. So this should enable you to be able to get those pieces right first time, as long as you've done the measuring correct with your stencil. And this piece, once you cut it out, should have exactly the right angles and exactly the right dimensions to fit into that gap we've got on the stair. So if we go back to the stairs, take the two pieces we've already put together, fit this final triangular piece at the top, and that then creates the perfect oak-clad stair for this winder. So that's how to do the tricky triangular pieces. The square pieces are fairly straightforward. You just measure the length and the depth, and the boards we've got here are big enough to be able to fit straight onto these squares. So once you've cut out every single step, you want to mark them up and number them. So we have numbered every single piece here. So this piece is the nosing and the tread for stair 14. So this is our final stair, which is a fairly easy rectangular piece. The one beneath it is number 13. So the first piece here, this is the riser. So this will be the vertical piece that will sit, that you look at as you're walking up. And then underneath it, we've got the nosing and the tread. So if you number every one of those, it makes sure that you don't get confused. If you just put them in a pile without numbers, it can be a nightmare. So make sure you number every single piece as you're measuring and cutting it, so that you know exactly which piece fits where, because your steps might not be all the same size. So you want to make sure you get the right piece in the right place. Okay, fitting. So we've decided that glue is sufficient for this staircase. It's new, it's relatively square, so strong adhesive, and this is special flooring adhesive, So we bought this from a specialist flooring merchant. So we're applying it liberally, so we're putting a lot on, and then if you use a trowel like this with the serrated edge, what that does, it creates within the glue, it creates air pockets, and then as you press it into place, it squashes down all those air pockets and makes sure that the glue sucks in across the whole piece and is really tight and gives you a really good tight finish. So that's what you'd be looking for aim for. So you apply the glue just using a standard knife, a decorator's knife. So this is going on, but before you fit any of the pieces, you need to make sure that you run something through it that's got a serrated edge. So you can get small plastic handheld pieces for the same sort of thing. It's this type of tool that you'll use when you're laying tiles. So you want the same sort of serrated finish in your glue or adhesive. But it's really important because it creates that air pocket. As you push down, those air pockets are then pushed out, and it really sucks the wood down into place and makes sure that you get a really tight fit and that the adhesive is consistent across the whole of the piece of the wood. So we've applied the glue here, just laying it on, and then you run the trowel through it to get those lines. You want to see those lines in all of your glue right up to the edges, because that's going to make sure that none of these pieces come loose and that you don't have any creaking or wobbly floor pieces and stairs as you're walking up them. This glue is super strong, so once it's set, it's really difficult to get it off. But you need to make sure when you're fitting it that you put those nice lines into your adhesive, because that's then going to make sure that once it sets, it's going to be nice and consistent, and the whole step will be completely fixed down and isn't going anywhere every time you walk upon it. So yeah, just take your time doing the glue, putting it all through, make sure it goes all the way to the edge of every single part of the underlying step, and then it's just literally a case of taking the tread itself, which we've already cut out, and we know this is tread number 1 from our numbering system. So you take tread number 1 with the nosing attached to it, and then press that firmly into place. And it will help if you're walking up and down these steps as well, because then you're going to be applying even more pressure and making sure, because this glue will take up to 24 hours to set, so it's going to be relatively slow, but once it's set, then we're in place for good. So we'll just show you a few more of the steps here. Same process. So the vertical part of the step, which is called the riser, we're applying the glue to those pieces because it's vertical, so it's much easier to actually put the glue onto the board. When you fit it in place, you might need to just knock it down a little bit, make sure it's tight against the board below before you put the tread on. So fit that nicely into place. Once that's on, you can then apply the glue for the next one. You can see we've already done this one, and then we're just laying the tread firmly into place. You can see the nosing, how that's creating a nice overhang on the stairs, really giving us that sort of first class finish, starting to look quite upmarket. So same process with the riser. The glue's applied to the riser, press that firmly into place, make sure it's nice and tight, and you can see it removes the gap with the stair below. And if you do get any adhesive that squeezes out and just oozes here and there, which will happen, just make sure you have a wet cloth to hand and wipe that off whilst it's still wet, because if you wipe it off now, it'll be easy. This wood will dry and it won't leave a mark. If you leave it and it sets, then you're going to have a problem, because oak is your finished surface, so you don't really want to be having to remove any adhesive if you can avoid it. It can be done. The oak we're working with here is unfinished, so you can apply some white spirit or some chemicals to remove that if you have to. Now, having a look at this winder piece, same process. You can see that we've applied the adhesive to the stair below, but we've also put some in the top corner, the small triangular piece. We've put adhesive on the back of that just to make sure it gets right into the corner. It's quite awkward putting the glue right in the corner. So here's the finished staircase. You can see how upmarket, how impressive, what a quality finish this gives you. We've applied a layer of oil to this staircase to give it that rich golden look. But you can see the nosings look fantastic. The overhang, it just gives you that really high-end first-class feel. And it ties in perfectly with the floor that we've laid in the loft. So looking back down the stairs, absolutely top-end finish. You compare this to what we had previously with the softwood. This is really at the upper end of the market. You won't get something more impressive than this. You can see I've got socks on here, such a great feel underfoot. This is a brushed finish, so it gives you that nice textured feel. You can feel the grain in the wood. You can just look at the detail on these triangular winders. You can't really see its planks. It just looks like it's been made to measure. Absolutely first class, fantastic finish. So just looking down on that, compare that to what we had previously. This is a really impressive, fantastic finish. So thank you for watching. We hope it's helped give you an idea as to what you can achieve. So please subscribe and we'll see you again soon. Thank you.